Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
For them to use us as a pawn is not only shameful and irresponsible, it's just downright selfish.
The limit on liquor, how the new restriction at BC liquor stores is impacting businesses. Also,
it's going to be a big concern for us.
It's been a bit more of a busy cold and flu summer.
The shortage of children's pain medication that has pharmacists urging parents to not stockpile. And
finally, we have a new market we can send cherries to.
A juicy deal for Okanagan farmers as they get ready to export the first shipments of this sweet fruit to South Korea.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Anita is away tonight. I'm Isabelle Raghem. BC liquor stores are limiting sales as the BCGEU strike targets supplies. Picket lines have meant businesses like restaurants and bars are not able to replenish all their stocks. And as Mira Baines reports, people in that industry say they feel like a pawn in the ongoing dispute.
We're frustrated, and today we're asking both sides to get back to the table immediately and find a deal.
Tensions are mounting as purchase limits come into effect at BC liquor stores due to the ongoing BCGEU strike. There's no end in sight to union picket lines at 4 liquor distribution warehouses.
They're putting a stranglehold on 40% of the supplies of alcohol that goes through this province. So this is not fair. This is going to be impacting local pubs, bars, and restaurants who have to purchase from those stores.
Both the hospitality industry and retail customers are restricted to the same quantity limits at government liquor stores. Liquor limits at BC liquor stores restrict customers to 3 units per individual product a day. There are no limits on beer, and 4-packs or 6-packs of refreshment beverages count as 1 unit. For example, you can buy a particular bottle of wine, but only 3 of that kind. Same with spirits. Restaurants and bars could run out of some products this weekend and early next week. The union's pressure tactic is angering some business owners.
The hospitality industry has gone through the toughest time in history. All of our workers were unemployed. Meanwhile, all the workers at liquor stores were gainfully employed. So for them to use us as a pawn is not only shameful and irresponsible, it's just downright selfish.
Even as some products are out of stock, some customers are unbothered.
I don't think anyone needs liquor in their lives. I think it's fun, but I honestly like to see what it's like to be living in society without liquor for like a month or 2.
First-hand news for me. I don't know if it will affect me greatly.
I mean, apart from my own needs and, you know, the alcohol, we want wine and that, it is really about the workers and fair wages.
BCGEU says its workers want better wages and wage protection from inflation. Minister Ravi Kahlon released a statement on the latest development.
Minister Kahlon says modest temporary limits at BC liquor stores aim to reduce large purchases and support equity for customers and for businesses. However, the two sides are no closer to getting back to the bargaining table. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
If you've had a hard time finding children's Advil and Tylenol in stores, you are not alone. It comes amid a BC-wide shortage of the medication. But as Janella Hamilton reports, pharmacists are assuring parents there are alternatives.
Hopefully that gets resolved pretty soon, because I think it's going to be a major concern for a lot of parents out there.
Kamesh Vias is nervous about sending his 2-year-old son to daycare amid a Canada-wide shortage of over-the-counter children's fever and pain medications.
He has been to the daycare a couple of times and he caught flu, I think, after starting the daycare, and that's when we had to get the Tylenol.
According to experts, the shortage stems from a supply chain issue. Drug makers are having a hard time securing essential raw ingredients such as acetaminophen.
Coming from the manufacturer directly to us is not the issue. It's actually them trying to get the raw ingredients from overseas.
This pharmacist says even the generic brands are in short supply. The advice is not to hoard or panic buy, but experts warn supplies are unpredictable, so parents should get used to seeing empty shelves like these well into the fall.
So if you have 2 children, usually a bottle will take care of what you need for the fall, as an example. Don't buy 6 or 7 bottles because that's how many you see on the shelf.
The companies that make these products say they're doing all they can. Experts are encouraging parents to seek professional advice about safe alternatives.
Chopping up pills that's imprecise. We don't want to give a child an inaccurate dose. Your pharmacist has all sorts of tricks and ways to make a formulation or a product available that will meet your needs.
If they cannot find any junior strength acetaminophen, there are options that the pharmacist can help dose according to the body weight of the patient.
Some pharmacists point to an uptick in cold, flu, and COVID-19 cases as a likely factor behind products flying off the shelves. They say there is no timeline on a resolution. VS says if need be, he will seek the advice of his family doctor to ensure his son gets the help he needs. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
In other news for parents and their children, Health Canada has approved a booster dose of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for kids 5 to 11 years old.
This booster dose provides a great option to restore protection for this age group, especially for those who are at high risk of severe illness.
Dr. Tam says children should receive the booster at least 6 months after receiving their initial 2 doses. Okanagan farmers are celebrating getting access to a new market overseas. They are preparing to export Canada's first shipments of cherries to South Korea. It's being considered a lucrative trade deal. So what goes into preparing shipments to meet high expectations? Our Brady Strachan stopped by a Kelowna packing house to find out.
We can take on splits, soft cherries.
Harsh Kayla shows off the sophisticated equipment at his family's cherry packing factory. On a busy day, 10 tons of fruit pass through these machines every hour. Freshly picked cherries are digitally analyzed dozens of times and then mechanically sorted by size and color while blemished fruit is removed.
We pack for US, Canada, China, Japan. We have a lot of different people we pack for.
In the coming weeks, the company will be adding another important market to its export list, South Korea. After 7 years of planning and negotiation, Canada has struck a trade deal with the Asian country. This will allow Okanagan farmers access to Korea, which imports more than $200 million worth of cherries each year.
Korea actually takes in the same amount of volume as China, so it's a very, very big market for us.
The warm, dry summers and few risks of pests or diseases make the Okanagan an ideal climate to produce these large, luscious cherries. Farmers in the BC interior grow 95% of Canada's sweet cherries. Federal Trade Minister Mary Ng was touring Kelowna, seeing firsthand the fruits of their labors.
It's very important. I mean, we've had a trade agreement with South Korea, and cherries, of course, the tariffs have come down quite significantly for these products to get into the South Korean market. You drive around this area and you see the farms. You see them in various sizes, from small family farms to large farming operations.
Northern Cherries is one of just 2 companies putting together trial shipments to South Korea this summer. This pilot program will pave the way for cherry farms across Canada to access the market next year.
And with more and more cherries being planted, I think there's 2,500 acres in the ground, and here in Kelowna and the North Okanagan within all the big companies. So all that fruit is coming, and there needs to be another market open for us.
Growers like Kayla are hoping this new trade opportunity will be as sweet for them as the fruits on their trees are. Brady Strachan, CBC News, Kelowna.
A bear has been put down after it was seen taking backpacks in Garibaldi Provincial Park numerous times. And experts say they are noticing that some bears are moving into areas they normally wouldn't be spotted. Benita Brach has the details.
This desperate scavenge caught on video. Campers in the backcountry near Garibaldi Lake spotted this bear scouring for food. The encounter leading to an unfortunate outcome.
It's trying to get to the packs.
The Ministry of Environment says conservation officers put down the bear, and it repeatedly got hold of food from caches and then returned to the campground looking for more. The bold behavior presenting too much of a safety risk to the public.
I'm not surprised to hear that the bear was put down in a situation where it's accessing human food that's really inevitable.
She says in the past, the Taylor Meadows terrain has been popular for bears thanks to its berry bushes, but this year is different.
Summer was late to arrive, it was cold, it was wet, and what that means is that there were a lot of the traditional food sources for bears were not available as early as they usually are.
The late spring forcing hungry bears to resort to lengths and heights like this to bulk up for hibernation. Earlier this week, campers left notes like these, warning others of the black bear coming back for food. Advocates are reminding people to be responsible and bear smart.
This is a human problem and not a bear problem, where there's a lot of food and it repeatedly comes to that area, that they are often killed by the Conservation Officer Service. And so we really do want to avoid that from happening.
These big campgrounds, we just attract so many people. They're inexperienced and they just don't know what to do with food storage.
Because there is still the factor of a wild animal driven by survival.
It looks like either the system wasn't working properly or a very smart bear had figured out how to use it, which is pretty unfortunate.
She says having more park rangers patrol the areas is one way to help. Other solutions are bear spray and bear-proof containers, keeping food out of your tent, and even keeping the fire pit clean and free of food. All measures to help prevent another animal from being put down. Benit Brach, CBC News, Vancouver.
The young wolf missing from the Greater Vancouver Zoo has been found safe and is now back with its pack. It marks the end of a 3-day search effort after an enclosure was deliberately cut. The zoo has not said where the 1-year-old missing wolf was found or its condition. It was one of several wolves to get out of their enclosure earlier this week. Officials say the RCMP continues to investigate. Sadly, one of the released wolves was found dead on a nearby roadside Thursday. The zoo is set to reopen Saturday, and staff say the public will be able to see the pack once more. 3 people are recovering after a series of apparent random attacks in Vancouver's Fairview neighborhood yesterday evening. Vancouver police say a 70-year-old man was first attacked under the Canby Street Bridge just after 6 o'clock. An unknown man reportedly tackled the senior, punching and kicking him several times. 45 minutes later, a woman was hit nearby, and after that, another woman was stabbed. She was taken to hospital with serious injuries. All of the attacks involved an unknown man and happened over a 2-hour period. The VPD is asking witnesses to call them. And a man charged with groping a girl on Granville Island last summer has pled guilty to a charge of sexual interference. The 42-year-old Vancouver man was arrested for groping a 12-year-old girl. She contacted police following a series of similar assaults around False Creek last year. Sentencing is September 8th. The short-haul airline Harbour Air says it has achieved another goal in its development of an all-electric aircraft. This is the de Havilland Beaver electric battery plane. Today, the company completed a test flight taking off from its terminal on the Fraser River in Richmond and landing in Pat Bay near the Victoria Airport. The 72-kilometer flight across the Salish Sea took 24 minutes. This is the first time the company has flown an electric plane from one airport to another. 3 years ago, it ran a short test flight in Richmond. And let's bring in meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe. A beautiful day for flight today, a first historic flight.
I know. I love that, Isabel. Luckily, they got the flight in before the thunderstorms fired up. But the coolest thing I think about electrifying a beaver is that these big radial engines that the beavers are known for, all of a sudden, are quiet. You just glide through the air with the electricity.
You don't see them coming.
Well, yeah, pretty cool. So hope for more electrification news of the fleet soon. But as I said, Isabel, yeah, nice that we didn't see the thunderstorms until this afternoon. Want to show you a cell I've been tracking for a couple of hours just southwest of Campbell River. Really fired up in the past couple of hours. Thunderstorm warnings have just ended, but this series of cells produced hundreds of lightning strikes. We don't know if they were cloud to cloud, combination of cloud to cloud and cloud to ground, but lots of hail and downpours as well for the area. We are still seeing that lightning across the interior as well. That's all thanks to a low pressure system in the upper atmosphere that's cutting into that hot and humid air. Look at those cells tracking up through the southern interior. We have those warnings in place, Grand Forks just north and up north east of Kamloops as well. And then a widespread thunderstorm watch still in place, everyone in yellow. Still the potential to see those cells drift to the north, easing for the east side of the island. But it is an active evening, Isabelle. So if you do see severe weather approaching, take cover tonight. Lots of lightning and flash flooding is also a concern. I've got a much calmer forecast, though, coming up.
Okay, we'll check back in. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Turning to our coverage of municipal elections now, in Port Moody, outgoing Mayor Rob Bagramov is now not running for re-election after a string of controversies. That opens the door to new leadership, and 2 councillors are vying for the top spot. Justin McElroy went to meet them.
Well, when you're in a place as beautiful as Port Moody, there's always going to be controversy over any potential changes, and such has been the case in Port Moody the last 4 years, with a lot of discussions over how the city should grow, particularly around its 2 SkyTrain stations. Now, 4 years ago, it was Rob Bagramov becoming mayor, defeating the incumbent, but over the last 4 years, mired in contentiousness, Bagramov has decided to not run again. In his place, 2 councillors who have been on opposing sides of a lot of votes over the last 4 years, Megan Lottie and Steve Milani. And not surprisingly, both of them say that the other one is not fit to be mayor.
We shouldn't have to endure the bickering that has been frequent at the council table. Again, not something I participate in, but I do hear, and I'm not comfortable with it. So I plan on bringing a drama-free approach.
This community deserves to have somebody who is dedicated and has dedicated their time and effort into creating positive change in the community as opposed to focusing on negative, divisive politics.
I do not engage in any of the banter and the back and forth. I do not speak out of turn, which Megan Lottie does frequently, if not often.
I would say look at my record. Over the last 20 plus years on council, it's only been the last 4 years where things have really gone sideways in terms of relationships on council.
So they disagree on development, they disagree on who is to blame for the bickering in council, they disagree on pretty much everything, which means it's important not just who becomes mayor on October 15th, but who's elected to council, because after all, both of them will need certainly more than 3 votes on council to continue what they want to do. Otherwise, it'll be another 4 years of bickering. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Port Moody.
A Port Moody high school student is dedicated to helping inmates getting a better chance at success after leaving prison. She does this with the help of books. Mariam Gamar explains how.
Chloe Chen founded Fair Books because she wanted to raise awareness.
I've noticed that, prisoners, they're a very underrepresented part of our community. People just kind of try to ignore the fact that they're there.
Some of the books that people have been dropping off.
She collects books and donates them to prison libraries.
If they delve into the world of literature, they have something that they can think about, that they can explore, and even make connections between the people in their community by talking about what's happening.
Book Clubs for Inmates, an organization with chapters all over the country, also says that books and the life skills that come with reading should be prioritized in prisons.
They're skills that integrate your thinking into the cultural thinking, the zeitgeist of the moment in society.
McEwen says it doesn't matter what type of book it is.
Whether it's historical fiction or current fiction, it not only helps your literacy skills and so on, but it expands your knowledge. You get to see the world through other people's eyes. It expands your imagination. You get to see the possibilities of life not behind bars.
Kevin Milley has firsthand experience with the benefits of books behind bars.
I really discovered the joy of reading when I finally started to kick my heroin habit, my drug addiction, when I knew that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Probably about 20 years into my sentence.
Starting in the 1980s, Millie served 25 years in prison.
When I was a young guy, what's the best, you try and kill the time the best way you can.
But reading became more than a way to pass time for him and many peers. It connected them with the outside world.
To get up-to-date books and maybe books that you're interested in is a big thing in there, and it keeps a lot of people out of trouble, and it educates guys.
But accessing books in jail isn't always easy, with prison security standards and searches for contraband. Chloe says if you can get past that, the positive impact on inmates can be life-changing. Mariam Gamar, CBC News, Vancouver.
Fan favorite Super Dogs are back this weekend to celebrate the 45th year of the fair at the PNE. The show Super Dogs brings together hundreds of thousands of British Columbians every day to watch as pups perform tricks and drills for audiences. Yasmin Gandam has a preview.
Around, go, 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 go. Lisa's son has been training with Super Dogs for almost 15 years. She grew up watching the show and never thought her two bulldogs would be Super Dogs.
It was kind of like one of those dreams that you never know it's going to come true. And then suddenly, as you get older, you find out what drives you, what passions you have, and you think, you know what, I love working with animals.
The theme of this year's show is superhero themed, called Paw Vengers, with Son's dog's 7-year-old brothers playing Hulk and backup Hulk.
Hulk usually saves the day, so hopefully these bulldogs will save the day. And
Son says even though her pups may not be the fastest,
sad. That's what happens sometimes if they've lost and no audience has pretty much cheered, sad.
They certainly are the cutest.
Turn.
The show is celebrating 45 years at the PNE, with the Super Dogs earning some pupcakes to celebrate. And this weekend, this arena will be filled with thousands of people.
Now I have countless grandparents bringing their grandkids. They brought their kids. It was a big event. They can hardly wait to come to the Super Dog and share that with their grandkids. It's really a special moment.
The happiness that Super Dogs brings to so many families every year, myself included, because I used to be on that side, is just a blessing.
Son's 7-year-old son King now grows up watching his mom train, and she hopes he might carry on the Super Dog legacy one day.
But it's pretty cool that you get to wear this shirt and kind of hang out with your mom, right?
But it's so big on me. That was the smallest I could find.
The PNE kicks off Saturday with the Super Dog show featuring Son's two pups performing 3 times daily until September 5th. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Vancouver.
The first Indigenous judge nominated to Canada's highest court, a Franco-Ontarian woman. More on the significance of this historic appointment to the Supreme Court. That's coming up next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Throughout the show tonight, we will bring you the story of a groundbreaking Parkinson's treatment that has brought normalcy back to a man's life in Newfoundland. Almost 16 years after he was diagnosed, George Martin says he has his life back thanks to the Neurosphere virtual clinic, which allows his doctors to treat him remotely from Toronto. Take a look.
Who takes who for a walk? I've had Parkinson's for 16 years. It started off with the thumb shaking at work. And I sold cars for a living, last going off at Kia. And finally it got so bad, you get more nervous with the customer coming in.
Come on, babies.
So I was 54 years old, sorry, when I retired. Believe it or not, I had cancer at the same time. And I was more worried about the cancer than I was the Parkinson's. Parkinson's is not life-threatening, but I got over the cancer, so I was relieved in a way. But Parkinson's disease, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Not my worst enemy, because the progress is so hard and bad. It went from my thumb to my arm, to my leg, over to the right side. Finally, the shakes were getting so bad that I didn't know what I was going to do. So my specialist doctor said she couldn't do anything more for me. So the operation was the only thing that was left. So they operated on me November the 15th. I was discharged the same day, and I went back to my sister's in Toronto. I have 57 stitches in my forehead, or staples. What they did was put an implant in, they call it a generator. It's right here in my chest. If I didn't have a shirt on, you could see it.
It's right under the skin, yeah.
And that sends impulses up to the brain, or electrical current. The part of the brain is not working. They put an electrode in here and an electrode in there. And shakes just stopped.
It's a miracle.
And they gave me an iPad to go home with that I can control how much impulses sent from here to there by myself.
Yep. I can turn them on and turn them off.
Prime Minister Trudeau has nominated an Indigenous woman to the Supreme Court of Canada. Her name is Michelle O'Bonswin. As Peter Cowan reports, the nomination is making history.
Well, this is going to be the first time in the 147-year history of the Supreme Court that an Indigenous person will be on the bench. Michelle O'Bonswin is Abenaki. She grew up in a small Franco-Ontarian town just outside of Sudbury. And it's that French-speaking background that is key, because that's one of the requirements in order to sit on the court, a requirement that has been criticized. In her application to the Supreme Court, she highlighted her work on mental health, saying that the justice system has an important role to reduce the stigma of mental health. Her appointment is getting support from people like Murray Sinclair, former senator, as well as chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He wrote in a statement this afternoon, Justice O'Bonswin has shown clearly that she will fill an important role in Canada's highest court. It is long past due that the court has a seat for an Indigenous justice, one who has seen firsthand the impact of colonialism on Indigenous communities. There was also a statement this afternoon from the Congress of Aboriginal People, which wrote, Indigenous people have long faced discrimination, racism, and prejudice in Canada's justice system, leading to the overrepresentation of our people in courts and prisons. Governments must continue to ensure Indigenous voices help create laws, interpret, and enforce them. This is the second landmark appointment to the Supreme Court in as many years. Last year, Mahmoud Jamal became the first person of color to sit on the Supreme Court. Peter Cowan, CBC News, Ottawa.
For reaction to the nomination to the Supreme Court of Canada and what it means for Indigenous law in this country, we're joined by Drew Lafond. He's the president of the Indigenous Bar Association. Thanks so much for joining us. What was your response to the nomination?
Thank you for inviting me today. My immediate response was shock and surprise, and I was very pleased to hear the news this morning. I'm elated as an Indigenous lawyer, somebody who comes from the Muskeg Cree Nation, and who we come from a firm legal tradition in our community, and we've seen a lot of lawyers represent our interests. And to see somebody make it all the way to the country's highest court as a nominee it's certainly pleasing.
What does this message send, or what is the message being sent to Indigenous people who are lawyers and those who are also non-lawyers? What do you think they're getting from this?
Well, the first thing we want to see as members of the Indigenous Bar is we want to see the Honourable Michelle O'Bonswin go to work now. And she's certainly got the pedigree, and she's got the background, the lived experience. She has the experience with Indigenous languages, cultures, and has a very prolific knowledge of Indigenous laws, and certainly represents one of our best. And so we want to see her views, we want to see her perspectives, and we want to see her legal analysis built into the Supreme Court of Canada's judgments going forward. And this will be the first time in the court's 146 years that we're going to be able to have the opportunity for this to happen. So it's exciting as an Indigenous lawyer. And for the younger Indigenous lawyers coming up, or those Indigenous people who are in law school as students, or any young people who are aspiring to be lawyers, this is an exciting development because it's certainly reassuring that the country is moving in the right direction.
You call this monumental. Is there more work, and what type of work would you like to see going forward? Obviously, we are celebrating today, but I'm sure there are still gaps in the system. Anything you would like to see moving forward?
Institutional changes still need to happen. We still need to see some developments and evolution in our laws within Canada. Quasi-constitutional recognition of the Indigenous laws in this country, and that the Indigenous laws served as a foundational system, right alongside the English common law and the civil law. That's something that we need to continue to work on. The hope is that going forward, we can have spots on the Supreme Court of Canada for Indigenous individuals and practitioners who have a grounding in Indigenous laws, much like we have the 3 seats set aside at the Supreme Court of Canada for those judges who have a background in Quebec's civil law.
We're looking forward to see what this leads to, the nomination, and how this impacts Canadian law and Indigenous people across this country. So thanks so much for sharing your insight. Drew Lafond, the president of the Indigenous Bar Association.
Thank you for having me.
A warning today about Apple devices. The company has revealed a security flaw that could allow hackers to take control of some iPhones, iPads, and Mac computers. The CBC's Nisha Patel looks at the problem and how to fix it.
Everywhere you turn, someone's using an Apple product. And news the devices could be hacked is putting a spotlight on security.
And I don't want anybody to hack into any of my bank accounts or any social media. That sounds a little scary.
Apple releases several software updates a year to keep its products secure. This latest flaw is getting more attention because of how users could be vulnerable.
If it's exploited and essentially malware gets embedded, it gives the hacker or the individual control over the entire person's device.
With so much of our lives on our devices, it could put a lot of information in the wrong hands.
GPS, microphone, camera, very sensitive information, pictures, videos that you may have. And this is a treasure trove for individuals that want that data.
The security flaw affects many Apple products, the iPhone 6s and any later models, versions of the iPad Air, iPad Mini, and iPad Pro, as well as some iPod Touch and Mac computers. Experts say users who let their software lag are most at risk.
But about 18% of all devices globally are, don't always have the latest patches and are about 3 versions behind. So this is where the threat actors are targeting those devices.
To update an iPhone or iPad, it's a quick fix. On your device, go to Settings, scroll to General, press Software Update, then hit Download and Install. The whole thing should take less than 5 minutes. Experts say not taking action could have serious consequences.
They could potentially do things without you even noticing. This is really one of the dangers of having a device that is compromised.
Apple has built much of its business on being known for security, but issues like these may have customers questioning that reputation.
You pay pretty much a lot of money to have an Apple product, so the safety is kind of important to me.
Still, it's up to users to make sure devices are up to date. A minor inconvenience to avoid a major security problem. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
A somber anniversary in northern France, 80 years since the raid on Dieppe, Canada's bloodiest battle of the Second World War. How some soldiers are being remembered, coming up.
The start of the Pacific National Exhibition, a thing that I go to every year and I take my son to and I thoroughly enjoy. Now here's Dan McAfee to show you some of the fun and the highlights of what's going to be happening.
Well, Debbie, you and 1.25 million others are attracted to this lively West Coast exhibition every year. As a matter of fact, the PNE is second only in Canada to Toronto's CNE. Daily feature attractions like the Mad Demolition Derby make it easy to see why a multitude of Westerners time their late summer holidays to coincide with the exhibition. Other entertainment includes a variety of outdoor and indoor stage presentations. And a must is the Loggers Show, a rare display of unique West Coast skill and speed. The fun of the Midway goes all day and well into the night, with everyone enjoying the rides and spending their change on games of chance. Everything from the Children's Zoo to equestrian events serve as reminders that the PNE is above all Western Canada's largest agricultural fair. The 66th Pacific National Exhibition gets underway with tomorrow's parade. If you're in Vancouver between now and Labor Day, hop over and have a good time.
Green farming is a life for me. Farm living in the PNE.
To the strains of Green Acres, the 81st annual PNE Summer Fair opened this morning. There are some new attractions this year. There are interactive video displays where you can become part of the action.
We went to Mars. Life here, Mr. Spot.
And there's something called Heroes of the Great Paradox. 7 giant moving sculptures, sort of like Meccano if you had lots of money. And there's a new ride at $75 for 10 seconds, an expensive ride.
Okay, here we go! 3, 2, 1, bungee!
But there's lots of the old stuff, too. Tamer rides for younger customers. And lots of people that want to sell you stuff.
Hey, yeah! Winner every time in this game! Come on, girls, give it a try. Hit any poster, it's yours!
And they were selling hard today because the crowd was small.
18 for $20, that's the best deal. Beautiful house located in Surrey. Win a Ford Mustang, Ford Probe, Thunderbird, Explorer, Ranger. This is a good deal. This is a good deal. It's guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Where is everybody?
Where? I don't know. I think no one knew it's starting today.
Today marks the 80th anniversary of the DERP raid, Canada's first major battle of the Second World War and the deadliest. The campaign is still very much remembered overseas, and in France, another veteran was honored today. Katie Nicholson introduces us to him and to others no longer with us.
It may have been 80 years since the DERP raid, but when you're here, it feels a lot closer. Canadian flags flying in towns up and down the coast. And of course, there are the ceremonies all over Dieppe. At the biggest one today, 100-year-old Gordon Fennell was awarded the Medal of the City of Dieppe.
De la Légion d'honneur.
And last night, he was awarded the French Legion of Honor, the highest honor in the country. Fennell was just 20 years old when he landed here that bloody morning. Of the more than 6,000 Allied soldiers who came here, more than half were killed, injured, or taken prisoner. Fennell managed to evade capture by escaping in a leaky boat before eventually returning to the front lines. But he never returned to Dieppe until this week, because as he told me, he had quite enough of it that day.
I wasn't anxious to get back to the same domain, so to speak. But as time went on, I stayed for the world that state of mind.
But today, he spoke of how meaningful it was to be here.
I'd like also to remark how pleased I was personally to see all the growth taking place in that terrible day. And That means a loss of heavy work being done.
Most of the men who served that day and survived have now passed away. It's their families now keeping that memory alive, making their own pilgrimages, and in some cases, having their own private ceremonies. Last night, we met with 11 members of one family who found the diary of their grandfather years after he was killed. They gathered around his grave and read the last letter he wrote his wife. They found folded in the pages of the diary. And then they read its final entry, dated August 18th, the night before the raid. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Dieppe.
The raid is being commemorated with a new project here in Canada. It helps honor and remember soldiers who were there that day. The CBC's Emily Brass has more on the initiative aimed at preserving their memory.
It's in Hartney Cemetery, and there's a memorial.
This little album is how Gordon Newton remembers his uncle. Corporal Eldon Hatch was killed 80 years ago today during the Dieppe raid. He and his sister Nora say he was a handsome man who sang in the choir and loved children.
We'd grab a hold and tease us and throw us in the air and hug us.
He was very giving, caring person, very involved with people, and we loved him very much.
They remember their grandmother getting the news by telegram.
I was a little guy. I'm sure I cried.
Well, we all cried.
You know?
Yeah, we all cried. Yeah.
I missed him like heck.
Their uncle's last known address was here on Lincoln Avenue in Winnipeg. It's one of hundreds of homes across Canada to be sent a postcard like this. A new exhibit aims to keep memories of Dieppe soldiers alive.
And we thought, well, if we can tie a serviceman who was killed overseas in 1942 to a current address, maybe that gives, the person at that address, a little bit of a pause on Friday to think about, who was that person?
Another postcard was sent to this home on Spence Street.
The room that I sleep in, that could have been his room.
Kathy Fossin wants to learn more about the fallen soldier who once lived in her house.
Chills. Just gives you chills and makes you appreciate what you have and what others sacrifice so you could have the freedoms that we actually have today.
Historians couldn't find a photo of Sergeant Nestor Parent, but they do have a picture of what his life was like and the horrible way it came to an end.
Parent left his Winnipeg home after his parents died and enlisted with Les Fusiliers Mont-Royal. The regiment suffered some of the highest casualties at Dieppe. Witnesses saw Parent crawling on the beach where he was fatally shot by the Nazis. Gordon and Nora hope the stories remind Canadians of the horrors of war.
If you look at the news today, the actors changed, the positions changed, the issues changed, but we can't seem to learn to get along together.
We live in a wonderful country, and it was, and people sacrificed their lives to make it that way.
People like their beloved uncle, Eldon. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now to an update on the sexual assault allegations made against Cardinal Marc Ouellette. He is calling the accusations by Quebec women defamatory. The allegations were part of a recent class action civil lawsuit against the Archdiocese of Quebec. There are more than 100 alleged victims. In Ouellette's case, a woman accuses him of unwanted touching and sexual harassment, which she says happened more than 10 years ago. The Vatican said yesterday there is not enough evidence to investigate him, but Ouellette is participating in the civil lawsuit to clear his name. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres visited the port city of Odessa today to see the progress that's been made on Ukrainian grain exports.
It's very emotional for me to be here today in Odessa and to see, I just saw wheat being loaded into a ship again.
Under a safe passage deal brokered by the UN and Turkey, more than 24 ships have set sail from ports in and around Odessa. They're carrying more than 500,000 tons of grain and other agricultural products. A dense tree canopy is key to keeping cities cool and fighting climate change. But a group in Nova Scotia is taking this idea to the sea. Their underwater reforestation is coming up next. And a live look at 6:43 at Katmai National Park in Alaska, where these brown bears are feasting on spawning salmon along the Brooks River. Johanna Wagstaffe joins us coming up next with a full breakdown of the full provincial forecast and what we can expect in this next heat wave.
Like a little while ago, his right hand started to shake a bit. And so he said, oh, well, maybe I'll turn it up a little bit. So he'll turn it up like half a notch, we call it, because it goes up in 0.5 increments, right? Like, I'm a real nerd. So, like, this is fascinating to me.
Digital care allows you to go beyond the...
And then when he has the appointment with the doctors, like to update the software, they can do that virtually. You know, just like you're in a Zoom meeting. It's wicked.
Connect to his brain.
Yeah. When they updated the software, you forget how bad it was. Because I know when they updated the software on the computer, they had to turn it off first. And I mean, 1 minute George is sitting there like he is now, and the next, I mean, everything just starts. The leg goes, the hand goes, like everything just goes. And then they turn it up again, and he's like he is now. He just stops. Well, he can turn the machine down and he'll start to shake and turn it up again. Okay, so this is the Apple iPod that controls electrical impulses to control George's Parkinson's. And so say if I went to side 1, which is his left side, so right now he's pretty still there. You want me to do this?
Oh, turn it off.
So if I go down, see his arms start to shake?
Okay, turn it up again.
It's starting to get bad now, isn't it? Yeah. So now you can see. Just hang on now. I can only go so fast. And you'll see now his arm will start to settle down. You were at 5.25?
5.5.
Oh. You were higher than that.
That's good.
There you go.
George, what was that like? Oh, bad. Brings back so many memories. It's like the vein is going to pop out in the arm. And if I got pain, it's right here, which I did. That amazes me still. For her to turn it off.
And how bad it gets.
Well, George, I appreciate you putting yourself through that just then to show us what happens, because it clearly is not. It's clearly a very unpleasant thing to have to do. So I appreciate you showing us. Well, I thank you for coming all the way up from St. John's to our campsite. Thank you so much. And I hope if there's anybody out there that would like to talk to me, by all means.
Okay, take a look at these guilty little faces. A trio of masked bandits causing trouble in New Westminster. Police in that city tweeting this image of this band of raccoons as they made off with someone's wallet last night. They were spotted along 8th Avenue, but officers were not able to catch them or the wallet. Police say if you recognize that wallet, give them a call. Joe. They went away with the little wallet. I wonder what they went to buy with it. Did they get some food? What'd they do with the wallet?
This is a great question. Yes, I imagine they went to 7-Eleven and bought junk food.
Of course.
That's my guess.
Yeah, I bet. going to rummaging through garbage, probably left it there in the garbage, you know, we don't need this wallet, it's useless anyway after the 7-Eleven trip, right?
Exactly. Take the cash, toss the wallet. Yeah, I can see why they call them bandits, Isabelle. That was a perfect crime for those little guys. But yes, I hope the wallet is properly returned. Taking you to another stormy evening. We were tracking those thunderstorm cells earlier. The warnings have ended across the island, but you can still see those lightning strikes and a lot of activity across the interior as well. We are hearing of a few new fire starts along one new fire near Vernon visible from Highway 97. And again, that's as new thunderstorm cells slide up from the South BC Wildfire Service is responding. Want to take you through the temperatures because we're still above seasonal, even though that low pressure system technically has cooled us down. Here's Sunday, you can see mid-30s in the interior, mid to high 20s along the south coast. As we head into Monday, feeling the closest to seasonal that we'll get in a while because starting Wednesday into next week, we might be getting into another heat wave. Look at these forecast highs, 37 and through Lytton, 29 down towards Victoria. I think the south coast will be hitting the 30s once again late next week. We'll keep you posted on that. So the upper level low, once I start running through the forecast clouds and rain, you can see that swirl that brought the thunderstorms to Campbell River swirl into the interior. So there is another risk of pop-up thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon in through the interior and out towards the Kootenays. New fire starts possible. And then we get into that hot, dry air for the start of next week. 34 tomorrow and through Kamloops, 34 for Cranbrook, 19 up towards Prince Rupert. Lots of sun for central coastal sections and lots of sun for Metro Vancouver. This is the forecast for Metro Vancouver, so it is a little cooler by the water. I've reversed them because most of our stations will be feeling this hot weather. 26 for Sunday, coming down on Monday. That'll be our coolest day this week. And tonight is going to be hot, so I meant to emphasize that. Lows of just 18, Isabelle, this evening. And then look at those Metro Vancouver temperatures for early next week. We are not anywhere close to being done with summer yet, Isabelle.
Sounds good. I can't get over the bandits. And can you imagine you're watching the news and you're like, that's my wallet. And you're
that's
like,
my
Dad,
wallet.
I told you I didn't steal the wallet. It was them, I swear.
That's so true. Just give me back my IDs. They're so hard to renew.
Wasn't me. Raccoons. Thanks,
yeah,
Joe.
Same. You're welcome.
People across the country are supporting initiatives that add trees and plants to their landscape, but a group in Nova Scotia is doing it underwater. Adam Innes has more.
This water may be murky, but to a small group of scientists and volunteers, the mission is clear.
It's a bit of a treasure, a secret treasure. Not a lot of people know about it.
This green plant, while little, is a big deal.
So it protects our coasts from erosion. It's good for water quality, and also it stores our emissions. So it's a secret weapon in our fight for climate change.
They say eelgrass is more effective at collecting and storing carbon than trees. These scientists consider it a frontline defense against climate change.
How does this one look compared to the others?
So when you see it, all your trees around you, you recognize how important they are, but then when you come to the ocean, you kind of don't think about this. And so eelgrass is growing always, and when you see it, like all these green areas, extremely important wherever you are.
But eelgrass is disappearing. Certain invasive species like to eat it, and changing temperatures are affecting its growth. That's why this group from Dalhousie and the Ecology Action Centre are out here trying to find the best way of replanting it. The group is trying multiple methods of restoring the eelgrass.
So we planted individual seeds, and we planted seeds in little biodegradable burlap bags. And they're already in there right behind me. And today we're gonna plant sods.
They say they're already seeing some results.
Every time we're snorkeling, we see little critters swimming along in there. We see crabs and lobsters, and those are super beneficial to our local fisheries.
Heavy. So hopefully by early spring or early summer next year, we will see which method worked best, and then hopefully can grow this project.
The group hopes to connect with communities and find volunteers. Their ultimate goal? To turn Nova Scotia into an eelgrass restoration hub. Adam Innes, CBC News, Halifax.
Marvel superhero, the actor who has roots right here in Vancouver on the improv stage. The Connection coming up.
to me, the hope that it would bring to people with Parkinson's, especially here. I mean, people in rural Newfoundland, they'd have to go away for the surgery and maybe one trip for follow-up, but that's it.
It's given me my life back. I can drive again, I can dance again, I can go into restaurants without being nervous that I'm going to fall. I can walk the dogs again. As you see, we have four dogs. This guy got a special place in my heart. He's seen me through a lot. And to walk him every day that I can is fantastic. It's the little things you don't think about.
Yeah, it's true. Cutting up your steak.
Yes. I used to get somebody else cut up my steak for me. Now I do it myself. Doing up my buttons on my shirt. I couldn't do it. So I had to go down and get somebody to button up my shirt for me. Even pulling up my zipper at times. And I hate to be out somewhere and have to go to the bathroom. Get in the bathroom and can't get the jeans undone. Top button the jeans. So lots of little things like that. That now is just gone. Where we are right now is new life with a fairly
new partner.
New partner.
New old.
New old, that's right. As I mentioned, she mentioned earlier, she's my childhood sweetheart. And there are times I know that I can be hard to live with. And she's put up with me for 2 years.
Well, that's a two-way street.
To just start traveling again. Start being with other people again, like we are here with everybody.
Come on, let the puppies.
Canada's Tatiana Maslany is donning the green and spandex in Marvel's latest streaming show, She-Hulk Attorney at Law.
Wow! Jeez, what the hell, man?
Still in control, no overwhelming feelings of rage.
No, a normal amount of rage.
The show follows Maslany playing the cousin of the Hulk from the Avengers as Jennifer Walker's, aka She-Hulk Maslany, takes on fearsome foes in the courtroom and on the battlefield. But long before she was a gamma-charged giantess, Maslany was making a big impact as part of Vancouver's improv community right here, taking part in improv camps and even winning gold in the Canadian Improv Games. Alistair Cook, her former improv instructor, is among those in BC excited to see her take on MCU.
Canada has a very closely knit improv scene, and Tatiana was a part of that for many, many years. And she had a chance to come out to Vancouver and perform in 2 of our Vancouver International Improv Festivals with her company from Regina, Saskatchewan. And she was amazing. She also came out and did some workshops and taught some workshops and had some really great experiences out here. Well, I was lucky enough to meet her when she was in grade 8, competing in the Canadian Improv Games. So I've seen her for years evolving as a performer, all the way from that initial stage to winning a gold medal in the Canadian Improv Games national tournament. and then as a young adult coming out and doing the festivals. She just has such a depth of understanding of humanity, and she's able to play all these wonderful, diverse characters. And that's really what strikes you when you see Tatiana perform, is just the depth that she can perform these characters, and just honest, true comedy. I think actually the MCU is a great example of where improvisers are taking their turn on the screen. I mean, you take the first Iron Man film, my understanding is that most of the script was still being developed while they were going to camera. Robert Downey Jr. would improvise much of his dialogue. Taika Waititi has the same style of directing, and they'll do alternate takes, and they'll find, really these actors understand the voice of the character they're playing. So to improvise from that perspective and find all these genuine, honest moments, I think Tatiana is going to be able to do a lot with that skill.
Another She-Hulk Canadian connection, John Byrne, the writer and artist credited for establishing the character, learned his craft not too far from here at Alberta College of Art and Design. And I had no idea Tatiana was Canadian and had roots in Vancouver, so that is something new to learn every day. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on CBC News at 6. We just want to remind you, if you're not already watching us on CBC Gem, that is our free app, and you can check it out online tonight. Join us at 11 with Michelle Gassoub for your News at 11. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful weekend.